Hey everybody, this is Scott Sykes, Democrat for State Senate here in our 31st District in Eastern Kentucky. That makes up Elliott, Lawrence, Martin, Morgan, and Pike counties. Welcome to the third installment of our video series where we're discussing the People's Platform for Eastern Kentucky. It's my platform, the platform that I've written that discusses the issues and covers the important issues that we're facing here, not just in Eastern Kentucky, but across all of rural Kentucky. Today, in this third-part series, or third segment of a four-part series, we're going to be talking about education, all right? And so, as always, I have my partner here with me, my sister, Stephanie Richards. Everyone, she is the one who hears me drone on about these issues day in and day out. And I thought, who better to ask me about my platform and to be able to help you all understand why I believe in this platform and why this is so important to me. And it's important to you. It's important that you understand where I stand on these issues. It's important for you to understand why these issues are so important to me, and so that you can make a better decision whenever you go into your polling station or you fill out your mail-in ballot. If you want to review my platform, my People's Platform for Eastern Kentucky, you can go to my website. It's right there where it says People's Platform for Eastern Kentucky, but my website is Scott Sykes, FORKY.com. Scott Sykes for Kentucky.com. You can also learn a little bit more about me, and that way you can get a better beat on me as a candidate, so you can make a better decision whenever you're voting. Also, the online application is still going on right now. And you can still apply for your online voting mail-in ballot online at www.govoteky.com. You can do early voting at your clerk's office right now in your respective county, and that goes for everyone across Kentucky and our Commonwealth who's tuning in and watching this video. And you can also, as always, go to your precincts that are going to be in your county, and you can vote on election day. And that is on June 23rd. The mail-in ballots do have to be postmarked on June 23rd, but I'm throwing out a whole lot of dates here, I know that. But June 15th is the last day that you can go online or call your county court clerk and request a mail-in ballot. That is the cutoff date. After that, you will have to go to the polling station in your respective precinct, district, county, and cast your vote there on June 23rd between 6 o'clock a.m. and 6 o'clock p.m. So that's where we are right now.
And the precincts are in different places for this voting.
Yes, we're going to be providing a list of all the precincts in the counties. So I've reached out to the county court clerks, and we have a list of most of them. We got a couple of more counties that we're working on of getting all the precincts, and the precincts are reduced. So I know in Elliott County there is one precinct, Pike County has 6, Morgan County has I think 4, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, we will be getting that out to you all. Martin County has 1, all right, but we'll be getting that out to you all here tomorrow. Okay, so there you go. It'll be out tomorrow. So that's it. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and get this started. And we're going to be talking about education.
We can do that.
We can do that.
We can do that. So tell us a little bit about how you got passionate about education. Let's start with that.
So that's the best thing to do, is start at the beginning, right? You know,
not all the way.
not all the way back. But education runs in my family.
Mm-hmm.
I come from a long line of educators. Those who tuned in for our first introduction video of our fireside chat series, we talked about my grandfather We actually have a school bell up on our mantle, and my mother's paddle, the legendary paddle, on the mantle. And so my mother was a teacher. My grandfather, he taught in the one-room classroom, A.C. Childers. And there's some funny stories about him. But anyway, but he was a hard-nosed teacher. My mother, Peggy Sykes, she was a hard-nosed teacher as well, and she moved up and was able to be an assistant principal and interim principal before she retired after serving in the Pike County school system for 33 years. You taught in the Orlando school system down in Florida. How many years did you teach there?
10 years.
10 years in sunny Florida, there in Orlando.
It was a hard job, but somebody's got to do it.
And that's what every teacher says. And after I returned from Chattanooga and working for the Chamber of Commerce down there, I came home, and I was looking for something where I would be able to make an impact with the youth. And I thought about it. I substituted for a little while over at East Ridge, and even kept in-school suspension over there for a while. And fell in love with teaching, and actually got my started graduate school and taught over in the Floyd County school system for a couple of years, and then it just wasn't a fit. So you do things and you experience things and you see things, and it's just like it takes a special person to be a teacher.
Right.
And there are things going on in our public school system right now that I think is working against our teachers being able to educate, and I know I experienced that,
Mm-hmm.
And that was part of my frustration. But living that and seeing that, and I mean you love the kids, I mean the kids come in and it's a passion for the kids, year in and year out, but that's see my family experience.
Mm-hmm.
All right, seeing mom go through what she went through and experiencing it as a child of an educator,
Yeah.
because you see things that most don't see whenever you're dealing with that, and seeing mom's frustrations, and also mom's successes,
Joy.
the joy of teaching. She always had joy.
She loved it.
She would go back right now if she could.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, Peggy Sykes would go back into the
She
classroom
would.
if she could.
And she would be good.
Yes, but that's where we are right now. But seeing mom go through that, and then experiencing some of those frustrations and those successes, both frustration and successes. Every teacher knows what I'm talking about. It weighed on me,
Mm-hmm.
and mom told me, I asked mom, I was like, how do you keep that from following you home? And mom was like, you shut the door behind you. And because those students and those papers and those struggles are going to be there whenever you go back, the next day. And her, our grandfather, her father, AC, Big Dad, said, told her the same thing. That was the advice that he gave her.
Mm-hmm.
And she gave it to me. And so much had changed in Eastern Kentucky from the time that mom was teaching, in that 15, 20 years whenever I started teaching. So there was that disconnect there, and I couldn't leave it, at the door. I carried that with me, and I realized, I've always known it takes a special person to be a teacher. It takes a special person to retire as it takes an even more special person to retire as a teacher.
To make it a career.
To make it a career. And those that Moorhead and those at UK who teach education and stuff, and they're in the graduate programs and teaching the graduates and building teachers and preparing teachers for their careers, they know exactly what we're talking about here, because of the high turnover rate of teachers. And but education is a passionate thing for me. I've
So as a senator,
Yes.
what would be the first way you would support our educational system?
Well, the first thing that we talk about and that is on the forefront of every teacher, educator's, mind is the Kentucky Teachers Retirement System.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing. All right. I stood with them in Frankfurt.
Right.
All right. So when Matt Bevin and the Republicans in the General Assembly were working against our teachers' economic security, and the teachers band together and stood up and marched on Frankfurt, decked out in red, and you're used to seeing teachers fired up in the classroom, okay, whenever they're like power teaching, but whenever they're fighting for their financial security and what they have worked for and the sacrifice and that they have
Yes.
given to be able to earn that retirement, they were there in full force and full voice, and the treatment, and the attitude that our governor at that time, Matt Bevin, had towards your teachers,
Yes.
and just the nastiness that it turned into was wrong.
Yes.
And I was right there on the Capitol steps, in the halls of the Capitol, echoing, just hearing it echo, from across from one chamber to the other. All right, and just seeing the teachers be passionate and fighting for their financial security. That's one thing that made me realize that I needed to be in Frankfurt,
Mm-hmm.
not just to be there to stand with the teachers, all right, but to stand up for the teachers and be a voice for the teachers whenever those doors are closed in the chamber and the teachers are shut out, because that happened, all right, and we cannot allow leadership, and thank goodness that Matt Bevin is gone, but we still have the remnants of his legacy,
Mm-hmm.
all right, and we still have Republicans holding supermajority in both the House and state Senate now,
Right.
that are slobbering that they're drooling at the mouth to be able to take away teachers' retirement and privatize it. Now, the other thing, and that I see happening, that's in regards to our teachers' economic future, all right, and it's been impacting teachers for decades, is their inability to collect Social Security. Granted, with the Kentucky Teachers Retirement System, they don't pay into Social Security, but they can't even collect their spouse's Social Security once their spouse passes,
Right.
right? Who's paid into that Social Security as well. So they can't even draw that.
Right.
And okay, let's think about it. Historically, statistically, what sex is a teacher? It's the women, all right? Females. Women are teachers. Okay, when we have male teachers too.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever you see, and also statistically, a male has a shorter lifespan than a female. So you're looking at their sunset years of being impacted economically because they can't collect their spouse's Social Security benefits after they pass.
Right.
And that's not right.
People don't even realize that.
No, they don't. And if we're going to be privatizing and a teacher's retirement, then we need to pay a teacher more. We already need to be paying a teacher more.
Yes.
All right. And it also goes to school staff as well. The support staff, the lunchroom cooks. Our grandmother cooked at the Elkhorn City High School lunchroom cafeteria. She was a school cook. So we also understand that side as well. Classified, non-classified is how they call it. But the school bus drivers, custodians, everyone that makes that hub of the community work and function and provides a safe and effective place to forge the future of our children. That's we need to make sure that those people that are stepping up into those jobs have a secure retirement and a secure economic future and are able to live within a means of comfort while they are still in their working years. That's the other thing. If you are teaching, you shouldn't have to have a second job. If you are working in the classroom, you shouldn't have to find a side hustle to be able to make it. And so many teachers are. They do other things. They coupon. They they do so much more that you can't even really get into everything in this video. But and in the urban areas, all right, so like the cities and stuff, you have teachers that are working sometimes 2 and 3 jobs just to be able to make it. And again, how can a teacher focus 100% on teaching our children and being successful in the classroom whenever they are burning the candle at both ends and in the middle? It's not fair to them, and we need leadership in Frankfurt who is going to step up and be that voice and fight for them. And that's why I'm doing this.
So when we talk about financials and fiscal responsibilities, so we're also talking funding, we're talking pension for the teachers, and it's not just pension for the teachers, right? It's everyone in the school, but also our government workers. Am I right?
Yes. Well, I mean, there's 2 different things. All right. So you have the Kentucky Teachers Retirement System, which is a defined benefit program. Okay. And that is locked in. It's a contract. All right. You don't break contracts. All right. So that is a contract that has been made with teachers. But you also have the employment, not the employment, but the retirement system for state workers.
Right.
Okay. And that goes from your health departments to your state police. All right. And everything in between. Now, that is also, initially, that wasn't going to be put on the table.
Right.
All right. And it was just the teachers that are going to be affected because the Kentucky Teachers Retirement System was a separate entity and funded differently. All right. But, Matt Bevin and the Republicans looked at that and they saw the roadblocks that they were encountering with the KTRS, Kentucky Teachers Retirement System. So they then focused on the state employee retirement system and wanted to start, modifying that and in essence privatizing that, so that instead of it being funded by tax dollars and funded by payments into it out of each check, and you invest that and let that grow and compounded interest and all that bank stuff. All right, you have that it was just putting it in a 401k and letting you just gamble with it.
Right.
And we can't do that. We have to have, especially with the volatility that we've seen in markets recently. No one can predict that you're going to be dealing with a global pandemic, and we saw blood on Wall Street, with the loss of it. I think it was like $3 trillion was lost in our economy over that period, and you're looking at unemployment rates, close to 30% in some areas. I mean, that's a third of your workforce right there, and that just evaporated overnight.
Yeah.
So how can a person who is planning for their retirement have a secure retirement whenever they're exposed to unforeseen risk like that? That's the purpose of a defined benefit program. All right. So the state holds on to that money and uses that money for, or funds, I should say, not money, funds, and uses those funds for, with compounded interest and to fund other state projects and everything like that. But that pool of money is supposed to be secured
Safe.
and safe and taken care of, not gambled in Wall Street speculation,
Right.
and not rated to build a bridge or a road. And that's what's happened before. But we need leadership that's going to be in Frankfurt who are stewards of that, so that those teachers who have served our communities for life
Mm-hmm.
have a quality of life and a dependable retirement. So that's one of the number one things that we're going to talk about in education, because if you're going to have if you're going to have education, you've got to have teachers.
Right.
All right? And no one is going to go into the teaching profession if they are not guaranteed a good wage and a good retirement. Because
We're certainly not going to get the best.
well, yes, you're certainly not going to get the best, but the one thing that we also have to think about, okay, is whenever you're seeing teachers, whenever you're seeing teachers struggle, and they can go to another state
Mm-hmm.
where they get a defined retirement and they get Social Security. West Virginia, which is just across the border from Martin County and Pike County,
Yeah.
all right, they're able to go to, a teacher can in effect retire and go to West Virginia and collect a second retirement if they work long enough, of course. Collect a second retirement and their Social Security on top of that. Now think about that for a second.
Right.
That's substantial. And we're not going to see quality teachers coming into our classrooms if we're not going to be paying them a livable wage, beyond livable, and have a comfortable retirement. Now, we're not talking about buying houseboats and driving around in a Lexus or anything, or like 2 or 3 Lexus. We're not talking about that. We're talking about teachers being able to retire, comfortably, and that's what they deserve. Because here's the other thing, and I lost track of thought, but this is the other thing. A teacher just doesn't go to college now and get that college degree
Right.
and master's degree. They have to have continuing education over the whole course of their career, more so than even doctors and lawyers. So whenever you look at a teacher in your community, that person is going through continuous education throughout the whole course of their career, and so that also needs to be rewarded.
Mm-hmm.
It's unfathomable to think that a teacher is holding a master's degree and is making less than $50,000 a year in this economy.
Right.
And that's not right, to have that much education and really that many work hours and then for that little pay. That's not right.
I would like to talk, this is my favorite part that I believe in so strongly, and I'm so glad you've included it, is the idea of less testing and more teaching.
Yes.
It's one of the things that I'm passionate about, and I'm so glad that you included it.
One of my primary frustrations whenever I was teaching was that there was so much reliance upon test scores, and they relied upon those test scores to gauge a student's true ability.
Mm-hmm.
There are some students that simply just can't test, and there are some students that can absolutely do nothing, not open a book, and they can test very well. Our students need to be taught more than to fill in a bubble, and our teachers don't need to have that type of pressure put on them and tap their success to a student's test scores. because that teacher is going to do what any normal, sane person would do. Okay? Forget learning about the civil rights movement in 1964 and that summer, and let's now focus on
how to take a test.
On how to take a test. All right, and it's just regurgitating those that information. All right.
I say it's teaching kids to memorize what to think versus how to think.
Well, the critical thinking is one of the things that I think is lost, and it's those executive functions that you learn through the process of education that really makes you a lifelong learner.
Right.
So you're able to make decisions of, is this good or is this bad?
What do I really believe in?
What do I really believe in? Well, what do you think of that? Well, let me tell you what I think of that. Because now, it's like, well, what do you think of that? I don't know. We have to have that level of critical thinking, but more importantly, our teachers need to be able to teach once again in their classroom.
Yes.
That is the most important thing. A teacher should not be scared to fail a student who is failing them. Okay? And a teacher every teacher wants to see a student succeed. No teacher wants to see a student fail. But if that student is not doing the work, that teacher shouldn't have to stand on their head to make that student do their work. It comes down to personal responsibility with their students, and since we have started relying so much on test scores, you have seen that personal responsibility and accountability shift away from the students and onto the teachers, and that's not right. And you also see. When I was in Floyd County, we had seven periods a day. Seven periods a day. A 20-minute lunch. No downtime. All right. And of course, out of those 7 periods, I had a planning period. But for that time, it was 7 periods a day of pure instruction. Now, there is no way a middle school age child is going to be able to maintain that level of focus in that period of time. And it doesn't matter if it's we're teaching them computers or that's physical fitness and stuff. No, they have to have some break from classroom structure, and it's more than just a 20-minute wolf down your lunch, period. We have to have more time for our students to socially interact with each other so we can once again, start seeing some normalcy in their society.
Right.
Because where we are going and that high level executive function and the critical thinking coupled with the social, interaction.
And I'll throw in arts education here too.
Well, that is on my platform.
It is.
Okay,
It is.
We're going to get to it because I talk about arts education. It would be a great segue to arts education, okay? And we will go there, all right? But we have to have that exposure, all right? And notice, I didn't mention arts education whenever I was talking about those 7 periods. Because, why? Arts education is no longer a priority in our public schools. And I'm not railing against our public schools. I'm not. I want to see our public schools do better. I want to see our teachers and our public schools have the resources so we can once again have art as not just an elective,
right,
but as part of the curriculum.
Yes.
And it's not just band. It's not just art like drawing and painting. It's not just theater or speech or drama or whatever you want to call it. It's all of them. We have to expose our children with every avenue of art.
Yes.
Because it enriches a child's life in ways, well, you and I can imagine it because we've seen it firsthand with Artist Collaborative Theater and the theater that we built here in Elkhorn and our children's programming that we offer. Because our schools don't offer that. And so Artist Collaborative Theater, I have to brag here, okay? Artist Collaborative Theater, folks, offered after-school children's programming to every child who wanted it in Pike County and out of Pike County. So any child who wanted to be part of the children's program, and it wasn't just doing high kicks on stage or anything like that. It was learning how to do sound. It was learning how to do the lights. It was learning how to do construction, set design,
teamwork.
and the team, and the teamwork. But more importantly, the personal responsibility that they had to each other.
Yes.
And accountability that they had for themselves.
Yes.
All right. So that's the one thing that art teaches, and just the one thing.
Right.
And I really think that we need to focus more on bringing arts into public education and have that be not just an elective,
Right.
but part of the true curriculum, and not just a side note in the curriculum.
Right.
This is it, okay, and that's where I stand on that. I can talk about it all day, but we have a whole lot of other things to talk about.
Vocational and
education.
trade school.
Well, hold on. Let's because we got ahead of ourselves a little bit
Okay.
on the platform. All right.
Okay.
I want to go back and I want to talk about student loan debt.
Okay.
Okay. I have a student loan. I'm sure many of you do too. Okay. If we are going to grow our economy, we have to eradicate student loan debt. Now I know that that's at the law that is at the federal level,
Mm-hmm.
but also at the state level, I want to work to make sure that our public universities and the community and technical college system it is and remains debt free. Okay, I don't want any student moving forward in Kentucky to be burdened with student loan debt. We can't have that. All right. Now think about it. And for anybody that's saying, "Oh, they just want free stuff," no. The cost of college and the cost of education has exploded 1,000% from the time that many were in college in the 1980s, 70s, and 60s. In the 90s is when you started seeing it start to go up to some insane levels. All right, and now with that student loan debt and compounded interest over that time, you have young people who are in their 20s coming fresh out of college into a dilapidated economy here in eastern Kentucky who are strapped with not just a couple of thousand, tens of thousands, sometimes over $100,000 of student loan debt because that debt kept on rolling over and it just kept on growing. All right, that they are now looking at a car payment or a house payment to be able to pay that student loan debt. And it's not just public debt. All right, it's not just the federal loan student loan. All right, many students have to supplement those student loans with private student loans because they can't get housing and they have to pay for an apartment or something along those lines. Also, it goes for other expenses while they're in college so that they don't starve to death. All right, but that private student loan debt is exceptionally predatory. And also, this is the other thing people don't realize. Those of y'all who deal with them do, but you have some companies, not mentioning any, that require a young student who is trying to better themselves by having a college education to have a co-signer on that private loan. Now that also locks in that person to that debt obligation as well. And it's not just a couple of years. This is 10, 15 years. And it is an exorbitant payment because of the compounded interest that has accrued over that short life of that loan while those loans were being kicked down the road while that student was able to, I think it's called a probate or student loan payback or whatever. But that was kicked down the road, so you keep on seeing that compounded interest keep on growing, and then before you know it, a $12,000 loan to get you through a semester or two of college turns into a $50,000 loan, and hey, it's time for you to pay up. Well, can I?
And it's ballooned.
Yeah, and it's ballooned. And they say, well, can I qualify for debt forgiveness or anything? No, you have to start paying back this amount right now. Why? Because it's a private student loan.
And the student is so strapped, it affects what choice they have in their career.
Well, yeah. The student isn't just strapped, all right?
Right.
All right, think about it. You're from here. You're from these mountains, all right? And you go to Moorhead. You go to Pikeville College, all right? You go to University of Pikeville, showing my age, or
Eastern.
You go to Eastern. You go to any public university or private university, all right? And you get a loan, and you're from these mountains, and you come back here. What are you going to do? What job pays you right here that amount so that you can not only live and when I say live, I'm talking about be part of the economy, have a car,
right,
pay rent or a mortgage payment, start a family,
right,
and be able to be part of the community.
Mm-hmm.
You come back here and you're strapped with that, you're saddled with that type of debt. What option do you have? You don't. So what do? You leave. That's the problem. That's the problem. And we talk about the economy, we talk about healthcare, we talk about education, now we're going to talk about infrastructure. All of these things have a symbiotic relationship here whenever we're looking at our economy.
right.
Okay? Right now we're talking about education. Right now we're talking about student loan debt. But whenever you want to talk about the financial reality of many young people that want to come to these mountains that they call home, because they were away from college and would come in for the weekends or whatever, and then they come back or they're looking and they realize that they don't have a job, they have no other choice but to stay in Lexington or to go down to Tennessee or to go someplace else where they can find a job.
Yep.
And that's wrong. And the other thing that was really wrong to my generation, all right, was that, go to college, get your degree,
Mm-hmm.
you'll be okay. So my generation was just like, okay, I'm going to college, I'm getting my degree, and I'll be okay. Then many of us came back, and that was when our economy had started to decline. It went off the rails,
right,
in the early 2000s, and so we see where we are now, and it's like we have young people who are going off to college because they still want to have an education and better themselves and contribute, all right, but they don't have anything here to build upon.
right.
So there's no career for them to do it unless they go into nursing. And that's why you see Pikeville Medical Center growing leaps and bounds. And so many of our young people are going into the nursing program because it's stable employment.
Mm-hmm.
If something happens here, you can go somewhere else. But you know what? Not every industry offers that type of stability. So that's part of the problem here. Therein lies the problem. We have no diversity in our economy, and we have students that are going into limited careers,
Mm-hmm.
all right? And there is no true economic growth because there's no other business opportunity. I mean,
Well, and they're certainly not financially stable as an individual enough to risk starting their own business.
Well, yeah, and we touched on
Right.
that whenever we were talking about the economy.
Right.
It's the symbiotic relationship of everything. So you have a student who has a phenomenal idea. All right, they learned some stuff, and they could literally start the next Google or Amazon.
Right.
All right, and they're coming right here, and they don't have that financial wherewithal to make that next step, so that they can become an entrepreneur.
Right.
So they can follow that entrepreneurial spirit and call, because you hear it whenever you're a business person, and whenever you see opportunity, and you see these things that are in the ether, all right, and you this is the opportunity. This is the opportunity. But the student loan debt has strapped them to the point where they can't take that other opportunity. And also, whenever you declare bankruptcy, that student loan debt follows you through bankruptcy. It is not dissolved. You're still responsible for that. And the person who co-signed for that is still responsible for that as well. It's not right. So we're talking about that, okay? And so where else are we?
I was going to take us to vocational training.
Yes. All right. So we can, again, a good segue. So we're talking about, going to college and going into debt, all right, from college. The great thing about vocational training is that it is a short time to be able to go from a novice to a master plumber, to a journeyman, okay?
A little bit louder, I couldn't hear you. A plumber?
A plumber, a journeyman, all right, or a master welder. Okay, so we can, and we have a workforce here that can do some incredible things. We really do. We have a workforce here that can move mountains. Literally, okay, and we need to, because we do big things here. I mean, we have men, predominantly in the coal industry, who would walk into a dark hole in the side of a mountain to provide for their families. Literally, all right, and so with that work ethic and with that ability, because, all right, let's also talk about the miners for a second, okay? Because we talked about production, because coal and the mining industry is always about production. How many cuts, how many tons, okay? And so a person who goes into the mine, they are technically trained to a level that no one else in the workforce is trained to. And I'm going to tell you why, all right? Number one, it's always about production in the coal industry. So when something breaks and you're, thousands of feet underground and you're in the dark,
right,
you gotta fix it. And that's what it comes down to. Number one, your life depends on it. Number two, your job depends on it, because the coal don't stop.
Right.
And you have men that are able to patch things together and to make things work that should not work, but it does,
sure,
to get them through that shift and to get them home safely. And that level of ingenuity can be put back to work.
Right.
Okay, so, and we talk about the just training program. All right, and that is to re-educate our miners so that they can use those hard skills to be able to do things. But we have to have the economy to support those hard skills, right? So it is a chicken and an egg thing. All right, but more importantly, the technical and community college system is a phenomenal resource.
Yes.
And again, by making it debt-free for students, for everyone who wants to go, it empowers them in a way that we will never have seen before. All right? So you go, you learn a trade, and you're able to implement that trade and be your own boss. Own your own construction company. Be your own plumber, electrician, welder, whatever, all right? But those are hard skill sets that will always be needed and always used.
Yep.
So I like to think about our community and technical college system as being a means for success for those who don't want to go to college. I know with me, okay, because there was a stigma put on those that went to vocational school whenever we were in high school. There was, all right? And it wasn't fair and it wasn't just. But for anyone who wants to learn a trade and they have this unique ability, it should be celebrated and rewarded. And I think, because I know that, had I had the opportunity, instead of going to college, I very well would have gone to in a different career. So anyway, we all know that story too. But no, I mean it's interesting. You know, we have to be able to give our people everything that's made available to them, but we also have to ensure that they have an economy to return to work in, and a community, safe community to live in.
So talking about a safe community to live in, that phrase, I want you to talk to me. This has been your passion that you've uncovered, the homeless situation of our students.
Yeah. So there was a study done about 3 years ago, I think. And so Pike County is the largest county in the state of Kentucky, okay? And by landmass. And it's the largest county east of Mississippi, all right? The population of Pike County is right at 60,000, okay? The school population has dwindled dramatically, and we're also in the middle of another census count. So
Right.
so we're waiting to see really where we are, all right? But you so like schools that were once that are now consolidated, they have the same head count as, so like Eastridge has the same head count as what Elkhorn City High School did whenever I graduated.
Right.
So, and it's a consolidated school of 3 schools. So whenever you look at that, we've lost a third of our student population, okay? And that's because the parents have had to leave.
Right.
Well, for those that have stuck around, again, we don't have an economy. Again, we're dealing with rampant drug abuse, you know, and the opioid epidemic, drug epidemic, whatever you want to call it, all right? So we have kids that are either being raised by their grandparents, we have kids that are crashing at their cousins' houses, we have kids that are floating from bed to bed at a rate of 30%. That is called a child homelessness rate. So that study discovered that here in Pike County, that the child homelessness rate of high school age children is 30%.
So 30% of our high school students don't really know where they're going to sleep tonight.
No, they don't. So the moment that and I didn't, whenever I was teaching, I didn't know it was happening, because you see it start happening after lunch. Where am I going to crash? Where can I stay? Where am I going to sleep? I didn't know that's what was going on, because let me tell you something, kids mask those problems.
Sure.
Because the social constructs and everything, they mask those problems, because heaven forbid if anybody knew what was really going on with them. And here's the other thing. So, and I also want to talk about student lunch debt. Okay, so we need to come back to that. But, so you have a breakfast at school, all right? And then you have lunch at school. No, it's not always a heavy lunch. They're not always serving fried chicken, mashed potatoes, and corn.
Right.
All right, or green beans, okay? Sometimes it's a Bosco stick, and that's it. Those of y'all who know what I'm talking about know what a Bosco stick is. But anyway, so, and that's a light lunch, all right? Now, that child, and you can see the panic in these children's eyes whenever they would be in the lunch line, and they would see
They would see how little they were going to have for lunch.
Yeah. Sorry. But yeah, so they would see that they had a light lunch, and of course they had to figure out not only.
You got it.
Sorry.
You're okay. They had to figure out not only what they were going to have.
Okay, I've got it now.
Okay.
They not only had to figure out where they were going to be sleeping that night, but how were they going to make sure that their little brothers and sisters
Had something.
had something for dinner.
Sure.
That's hard. That's hard.
It's wrong. It's hard.
But anyway, so seeing that struggle and seeing where we are, you know, that's third world stuff that we shouldn't be dealing with.
Right.
All right, and I don't fault the schools, okay, because it's not the cafeteria manager's fault, okay,
Right.
and it's not even the school board's fault. All right, we have to fund student lunch programs so that every child can eat. And I talked about student loan debt.
Mm-hmm.
No, not student loan debt, but student lunch debt.
Right.
All right, and that was something that started becoming a nasty thing.
Yes.
Where they would like make a child eat something different because they weren't able to pay for their student lunch. Now, that's not here in Pike County and in counties here in Eastern Kentucky, because every student qualifies
We all qualify.
for free lunch. Yes, we're that poor that we qualify
Mm-hmm.
for free lunch, and it's just across the board. So they took away with applying for it. Okay, but in other parts of the state, our state here in Kentucky,
Made news.
you had students who were giving an alternative lunch because they had a lunch debt that their parents weren't able to pay.
Right.
Now, you can't fault the parents because the parents are trying to make it. And whenever you are on a small minimum wage income and you're struggling to make it, or you're just slightly above qualifying for any of those programs,
Sure.
okay, that's when that comes in, and that's what you're seeing. So you're seeing those, and those parents probably are dealing with student loan debt issues, guarantee you. All right, but you're seeing that type of financial burden being placed on them, and then you have the child,
Right.
who is being denied and singled out, and I mean, just think about the social ramifications that has on that child's psyche, being in that situation. You know, I mean, talk about bullying, which is another thing that we talk about.
Right.
But it's just, that's just where we are right now. So we have to ensure that no child goes hungry.
Right.
We have to work on ensuring that every child has a safe place to go home, because you know what? That child is in survival mode, and there's no way on God's green earth that child is thinking about that math assignment,
Right.
and completing that algebra, assignment whenever they're stepping off that bus and trying to figure out where they're going to crash that night.
Right.
And you saw, and whenever I saw that study, I remember seeing them trying to figure out where they were going to crash, and texting and talking to everybody, and I didn't realize. I just thought that they were just looking for some place to hang out. Literally, they were looking for some place where they could sleep.
Wow.
They masked it that well.
Yeah.
So that's, we have several issues about education. Okay.
I also want, the last issue I wanted to bring us to is charter schools.
Oh my gosh, how did we forget that?
We didn't.
We didn't. Okay. You get so caught up in talking about all these things.
That's why you had me.
You do, exactly. Because there's so many points to education. Because education is the bedrock of our society.
The foundation
It
of
is
everything.
the foundation. It is the cornerstone of our culture and the bedrock of society. But so also, whenever all the Kentucky teachers retirement thing was going on, Matt Bevan was doing what he was doing, and right there in lockstep with Robert Stivers. Yes, I am running for state senate here in our 31st district, and I am working to undo that super majority that Stivers is sitting on. So whenever Robert Stivers was right there with Matt Bevan, and they were working against the Kentucky teachers retirement system, they were also working to allocate taxpayer dollars to for-profit private charter schools.
Yes.
I'm opposed to that. I don't think that's cool. And because, number one, okay, we live here in rural eastern Kentucky. We don't have that luxury of a private school. All right? We don't have most families don't have that financial wherewithal to be able to send their child to private school. And you know what? If they do, great. You pay, you send them. No one living in rural Kentucky should have to pay taxes and have those tax dollars go to fund a posh private charter school for someone else that's in Jefferson County, that's in Fayette County, or some rich suburb of those cities. No, we can't do that. Like the governor says, we can't be doing that. Okay. So I'm not making light of this. It is a serious issue. But it's so preposterous that you just have to look at it and just blink in amazement. Like, really? So here in eastern Kentucky, we're paying our tax dollars, and we're paying property taxes and everything like that. And you're wanting to allocate some of our tax dollars to go to a for-profit private charter school. And I use all those words together because they're always intermixed to make you think that it's not one thing when it really is. So a for-profit private charter school. And they're wanting to use taxpayer dollars to do that. Now, these make money. And they failed in other states.
In the 90s.
Yes.
Florida tried it in the 90s and it didn't work.
If we're wanting to invest in education, we need to invest in our public schools.
Yes.
If you want to have a business startup that's focused on education, more power to you. Don't do it with their tax dollars. And it's just that simple. You go ahead, you hire your teachers. You go ahead and you write your curriculum. And, bring it on, brother. Recruit all the rich kids that you want and give some scholarships to the poor ones so that you can feel good about yourself. But at the end of the day, our public schools, they've been here. Our public teachers, they are entrenched in our communities, ingrained in our communities, not just because they live in our communities, but because they've taught 2, sometimes 3 generations in their one career.
Yeah.
And Mom did.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we have to.
And to this day, she can look at a student in the eye and figure and remember which student it was and when she taught them
and where they sat.
Uh-huh.
And where they sat. So that's part of who we are. But whenever we're looking at the for-profit private charter school system, I am 100% opposed to 1 cent of public tax dollars going to that private institution. It will not happen on my watch. I will stand on my desk and I will shout.
Do you have anything beyond that to wrap up education with?
I think that's a pretty good note to end on.
You standing on a desk shouting.
It's happened. Anyway, but everybody, this is Scott Sykes. This is my sister, Stephanie Richards. Thank you all for tuning in. If you've been on this long, I hope that you've learned something while we've been talking about education and my people's platform for Eastern Kentucky. This was the third segment of a 4-part series that we're doing. I appreciate you all tuning in. And vote. You can go to www.govoteky.com and request your absentee ballot. You have until June 15th to do that. You then can go to one of your polling stations and vote on June 23rd. You can also do early voting at your county courthouse between now and June 22nd. Your mail-in ballot must be postmarked by June 23rd. Vote like your life depends on it. It's that important. I am asking for your vote, but more importantly, I want you to ask questions. If you have any questions, if you have any comments about what we've been talking about in regards to My People's Platform and education, please, by all means, send me a question, comment, share, like the video, like my Facebook page. Also, you can go to www.scottsykes for Kentucky, Scott, SCOTTSYKESFORKY.com, and you can check out my website and you can see my full People's Platform for Eastern Kentucky there, and that's it. So, my sister Stephanie Richards, everyone, and you'll be seeing a little bit more of her as we wind down. But thank you all for tuning in.
No, we're gearing up.
We're gearing up.
Gearing up, not winding down.
I'm winding down. But we're counting the days. Let's just say that we're counting the days. But be good to each other and be kind to each other, and everybody stay safe and healthy now. See you.